What happens when the son of a poor dustbin picker becomes too big and starts rolling with the rich boys in town and eventually forgets his poor mother in the village? What is the story of Ikechukwu, the son of the popular dustbin woman? Let's find out. It was a cold early morning in Temboga. The heavens showered cold morning dews onto the earth. Many town folks were still sleeping soundly on their bed, but that was not the case with Ogechi, the dustbin picker. She was already geared for the day's work at the community dump site. Ogechi was a waste picker. Every morning she would come to the dump site and pick all the plastic she could find, collect them in large bags, and sell to recycling companies and make small money. The job was dirty and demeaning, but it was putting food on the table. On that particular morning, Ogechi arrived very early at the dump site and started her day's work. But the faint cry of a baby stopped her in her tracks. The cries were weak, desperate, and it left Ogechi in shock. Was that a baby? Hi lovelies! Thank you for watching and engaging with our videos. To all our old subscribers, we say thank you and we love you. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe and turn on the bell icon to get notifications on our latest releases. Give this video a thumbs up and tell us where you're watching from in the comment section below. Thank you. It sounded like a baby. Or was it a cat? No, that can't be a cat's cry. Ogechi dropped her waste bag and equipment and started tracing the source of the sound. She searched frantically around the large dump site for hours until the sun came up and it became bright. She couldn't find what it was that was crying. By this time, the cries had become even fainter. Ogechi panicked and intensified her search, running helter-skelter around the dump site until her eyes landed on something. It was a basket, and inside was a tiny fragile baby wrapped in cloth and dumped like a refuse at the dump site. Ogechi rushed towards the baby and carried him in her arms. She checked for any sign of injury on the baby's body, but there was none. But the baby was unusually small, with skin that was almost white. His breathing was shallow, and he looked weak and frail. It looked like the baby was born too early. Who could have done this? Ogechi cried out. That day, she rushed the baby to the hospital for immediate medical attention. When she got to the children's ward, the doctor told her that the baby was born premature. That was why he looked small and frail, with pale skin. The doctor informed Ogechi that the baby would need to stay in NICU for a few days for monitoring. Ogechi heaved a deep sigh of relief. But if only she knew, her life was about to turn around. Later that day, Ogechi went home and told her husband Johnson about the baby she found at the dump site. That morning, she told her husband that she had decided to adopt the baby, since they had no children of their own. But Johnson refused. Tufiakwa, you won't bring a premature baby into this household. Never. Where do we get money to buy medications for the child when he gets sick? What if he's a sickler? Never. Leave him in the hospital. Maybe a rich family will adopt him. We can't take care of him. But my husband, what if he ends up at an orphanage? That child needs a family. He needs proper care. Ogechi tried to reason. If he ends up at an orphanage, then that's his luck. Who knows why his mother abandoned him at a dump site? Please leave that child there. Don't return to that hospital, Johnson warned. But that night, Ogechi couldn't close her eyes for even a second to sleep. Neither could she stop thinking about that child. What if that child ends up with a bad parent? Or worse, an orphanage? Different thoughts ran through her mind. Her husband was not wrong. The baby would need a lot of care and medications. But then again, if there is a will, There's always a way. That night, with great determination in her heart, she made up her mind to adopt that boy, no matter what anybody says. She wouldn't be able to forgive herself for abandoning the child at the hospital. The next day, Ogechi went back to the hospital to check on the baby against her husband's warnings. She gathered her small savings and paid all the hospital bills. And after a couple of days, the baby was discharged. That evening, Ogechi returned home with the baby cradled in her arms. When Johnson saw that his wife had brought home the child he warned her about, he was angry and terrified. How would they cope with a sickly baby? He tried to convince her to take the child to an orphanage, but Ogechi refused. Her mind was made up. And who can stop a woman on a mission? That was how Ogechi adopted the child. She named him Ikechukwu. Her heart and life was filled with joy when Ikechukwu arrived. They didn't have plenty money, but she made sure Ikechukwu had his medications and baby food. Every day, Ogechi would carry her son in her arms and dance around their tiny city room with joy. Ikechukwu brought her the joy of motherhood, and she vowed to lay the world at his feet. And Johnson, he would sit at a corner of the house and stare at his wife with frustration. Since the evil child arrived, Ogechi had changed completely. She no longer had time for him as before. She spent more time with the boy, who cried day and night. And Johnson was not happy. One day, Ogechi returned from the market and met that Johnson had eloped with all her savings, leaving her and Ikechukwu with nothing. Ogechi cried bitterly that day. She felt betrayed. How could Johnson do this to them, after all she had done for him over the years? Ogechi held her son in her arms as tears streamed down her face. What happens now? Ikechukwu needs baby food and constant medication. Where would she get money to take care of herself and her son? That was the beginning of suffering in Ogechi's life. For the next couple of weeks, she had to beg her neighbors to lend her money for baby food. And she couldn't go back to work yet because Ikechukwu was way too fragile to be left alone. But as the days passed, Ikechukwu became stronger and healthier. So Ogechi decided to go back to the dump site to resume work. But there was a challenge. There was nobody to leave Ikechukwu with at home while she worked. So Ogechi carried her cross. Every day, she would wrap her son to protect him from the dirt and smell from the dump site and carry him on her back and go to work. She had to make money so they could survive. And before you know it, years passed and Ikechukwu grew into a vibrant and healthy child. Ogechi worked very hard and put him in school. Every morning, she would take Ikechukwu to school before she would go to work. One day, Ogechi returned home and met her son crying in a corner of their tiny room. Ogechi's heart sank at the sight of her precious son crying. She rushed to his side and held him close. "Nna, what is the matter? Why are you crying? Are you hurt? Did something happen in school today?" Ogechi asked with worry on her face. "Mama, it's my classmate." Ikechukwu burst into fresh tears. "What did your classmates do? Did they hurt you? Talk to me." "Mama, they called me dustbin boy. They said my mother picked me from the dustbin and my father ran away because of my bad luck. Mama, I'm not going back to that school again," Ikechukwu cried. Ogechi's heart was shattered into 1,000 pieces, hearing those words from her son. "My son, you are not a dustbin boy. You are my golden boy. I will go and talk to your teachers tomorrow, oh?" "Mama, no, I don't want to go back there. Everybody in school laughs at me and calls me smelling dustbin." "Okay, my son, I will do something about this," Ogechi reassured her boy. That night, she couldn't sleep. She was heartbroken that her precious son was being treated poorly at his school. Even if she was a dustbin woman, Ikechukwu was made for greatness, for wealth. Even if she had to pick dustbin for life, she didn't care as long as Ikechukwu had the best. That night, she made up her mind to change Ikechukwu's school. The next day, Ogechi dressed herself in her best clothes. She took all her savings and went to one of the best schools in Temboga, where the rich men children went to school, far from the slum where they lived. To register Ikechukwu, she was determined to give him the best. She couldn't fold her arms and watch while her precious son was being ridiculed because of her job. From that moment, things became really tough. Ogechi had to work from dawn to dusk to keep up with the expensive school fees. It got to a time her dustbin business could no longer pay school fees and sustain them. So Ogechi took on other jobs, cleaning people's houses, washing clothes for people, clearing the waste bins in people's houses just to make extra pennies. Every day, after the tumultuous day's activity, her back and knees will ache, but she didn't care. She didn't give up. She couldn't give up. Each time she came back home and saw Ikechukwu reading his expensive books and talking like rich men's children, her heart was overwhelmed with pride and joy. And that was the boost of motivation she needed. Years passed and Ikechukwu got into the university. Ogechi's heart swelled with pride, seeing her son enter the university. Ikechukwu was handsome and brilliant, and Ogechi sold almost everything they had at home to buy Ikechukwu good clothes and shoes to look good. She slaved herself away every day to make sure Ikechukwu would be comfortable and measured up to his peers. She made sure Ikechukwu was never treated like the son of a dustbin woman. And when Ikechukwu walked through campus, you would think his father was a senator. He wore the best clothes and lived in the best hostel of campus. His classmates and friends all thought he was from a rich home. Soon, Ikechukwu started rolling with only the big boys and girls from wealthy families. And before you know it, he was swept up in his little world of lies and pretense. He loved the feeling of being rich, the glory, the respect he got from his peers. He revered in it. As time went on, he distanced himself physically and mentally from his poor, dirty background. Ikechukwu never visited his mother in the village after he started rolling with his rich friends. In fact, he hated the thought of going back home. Over time, calling his poor mother, who toils day and night to give him the best, became a problem. Meanwhile, Mama Ikechukwu never complained. She thought her son needed full concentration in school. She didn't mind. Every day, she would call her son to check up on him, but Ikechukwu never picked her calls when he was with his friends, which was most of the time. Ikechukwu never allowed his mother to visit him in school. When he needed food or money, he would tell his mother to send it through the motor park. He didn't want his friends to know that his mother was poor and dirty. He was ashamed to be associated with her publicly. Soon, Ikechukwu was able to navigate his way in his rich circle and started going for rich people's parties and conferences and events. And before he graduated, he secured his place with his rich friends' connections. And immediately after graduation, he got a good paying job with mouth-watering salary in a company owned by one of his rich friends' father. When Mama Ikechukwu learned that her son had finally graduated and landed a good paying job, she was elated. Finally, all the years of suffering and toiling was about to end. If only she knew. Years later, Ikechukwu became a big city boy. He was driving a luxury car, living in a luxurious rented apartment in the city. Life was good for him, but the case was different for Ogechi back in the village. Ikechukwu became more and more distant over the years. He never visited his mother. Occasionally, he would send her money for upkeep. Every time Ogechi tries to reach out to him on the phone, He barks at her. Mama, I'm in a very important meeting with important clients. I will call you back later. But each time he never called. One day, Ogechi fell seriously sick. She collapsed and was rushed to the hospital in the village. The years of suffering and toiling day in, day out had taken a toll on her now fragile body. Age was no longer on her side too. Her strength had faltered over the years. She could no longer do the work she used to do before. When Ogechi was admitted in the village hospital, she called her son repeatedly to tell him of her condition, but Ikechukwu was too busy with rich people's parties and conferences to pay attention. It was so bad that Ogechi couldn't pay her hospital bills. Her neighbors had to contribute money to discharge her from the hospital. When Ogechi got home that evening, her closest neighbor, Mama Emeka, came to her tiny house to greet her. And as they sat on the dirty couch in her tiny apartment, Mama Emeka began, her voice steady. Mama Ikechukwu, this thing you are doing is not right. Oh. You have a son in the city who is doing well. Why can't you call him to carry you to the city and give you good medical care? Or better still, send money for you to treat yourself. You have worked very hard to train that boy and give him the best. Now it is time for you to reap the fruit of your labor. Why are you holding back? Call him, or better still, visit him. Let him take care of you. Let him take care of his mother now that she's now old. My sister, I don't want to become a burden to my son. I'm still strong. I can still walk. Mama Ikechukwu lied, trying to defend her son. She couldn't tell Mama Emeka the truth that Ikechukwu was no longer the caring son she once had. He had drifted away, and to reach him was even a problem. Mama Ikechukwu, go to the city and visit your son. Let him take care of you. You are not getting younger. Don't come and die here. Oh. Tell your son about the situation of things in this village, Mama Emeka advised. That day, after Mama Emeka left, Ogechi thought about what she had just said long and hard, and she made up her mind to visit Ikechukwu in the city. The next day, Ogechi dressed herself in her best outfit, which was an old faded Ankara blouse and wrapper that she had been using for years, and she set out for the city. When Ogechi arrived at her son's house, she was shocked at the luxurious house her son was living in, but she didn't think much to it. She was here now. She hoped Ikechukwu would listen to her and reconnect with her before she joined her ancestors. Ogechi knocked on the gate, and the gateman answered. Madam, who you dey find? He asked as he was surprised to see the old poor woman standing in front of their gate. My son Ikechukwu. I can't see my son. I'm the mother. Ikechukwu, my son, lives in this house. The gateman looked at the poor woman from head to toe, assessing her. It was not possible that the poor woman was the mother of his rich oga. Madam, this is a wrong address. My oga cannot be your son. I think you have the wrong house. Ogechi tried to explain to the gateman that she was in fact at the right address, but he didn't listen. He didn't believe her. He drove her away like a poor beggar. Madam, please leave my gate. Don't let my oga come here and see you. Please go and look for your son elsewhere. Ogechi was devastated. She had tried to reach Ikechukwu, but the phone rang and rang endlessly without an answer. She didn't know what to do. She borrowed money from Mama Emeka to transport herself from the village to the city. Now she didn't have a penny left in her purse. Ogechi sat on a pavement close to the gate, hoping and praying that her son will return to meet her there and at least give her a proper food, as she hadn't eaten all day. Hours passed, and Ikechukwu returned with his friends with their luxurious cars. When Ikechukwu saw his mother sitting by his gate, he was shocked. What was she doing here? He had planned a house party with his friends. He didn't want them to know that his mother was poor and wretched. Ikechukwu drove into his compound and pretended not to know the woman sitting by the gate. Then one of his friends, Julian, asked in curiosity, "Ike," as they now called him, "who was that beggar sitting by your gate outside?" Ikechukwu tensed up. He thought his friend would not notice the poor woman, and then he lied. "Oh, that's my maid." "Really? You mean you have a maid that is that old?" "Ike, that's wickedness. She's old enough to be your mother," TJ, another of his friends, said. "Guys, I'm just helping her. She has nowhere else to go. I picked her up from the street," Ikechukwu said, landing the last blow. He told his friend to ignore the old woman, and they all went inside his apartment and partied till evening. It was after they left that Ikechukwu allowed his poor mother into his compound. "Mama, what are you doing here? Why didn't you inform me you were coming? You almost embarrassed me in front of my guests and business partners," Ikechukwu yelled at his mother. "My son, please don't be offended. I've been calling you, but you did not pick my call. My son, your mother has been sick in the village. It was Mama Emeka, that our old neighbor, that borrowed me transport to come to the city." Ikechukwu was not happy having his poor mother in the city with him. He didn't want his friends and colleagues to know of his poor background. He had worked so hard over the years to build a reputation for himself. He wasn't going to allow his mother ruin his hard work. Ikechukwu planned to send his mother back to the village as soon as possible. A few days later, Mama Ikechukwu, oblivious to the fact that her son was ashamed of her and didn't want to be publicly associated with her, brought lunch in a cooler for her son. Ikechukwu had skipped breakfast, so Mama Ikechukwu prepared his favorite food, pounded yam and egusi soup, and packaged it for her son. When she got to the large office building, she told the receptionist she was there to see her son Ikechukwu. The receptionist was taken aback by the sight of the poor, dirty woman who claimed to be the mother of Ikechukwu, one of the biggest boys in the company. As Mama Ikechukwu was still talking with the receptionist, Ikechukwu and his rich friends walked into the reception area. Apparently, they were just returning from lunch. When Ikechukwu saw his poor mother with her poor wretched clothes, he froze in shock. "Ikechukwu, is that your maid?" Julian asked. "What is she doing here?" Ikechukwu nervously replied, "I don't know, but I will find out." Ikechukwu angrily stormed to where his mother was standing, and he dragged her away from the receptionist so she doesn't reveal his identity. "What are you doing here?" he barked in anger. "My son, I brought your favorite food, pounded yam and egusi." "Don't call me your son here. And who told you to bring food for me? Do you want to embarrass me in front of my friends and colleagues?" Before Mama Ikechukwu could say her next words, Ikechukwu dragged her out of the reception area like a rag, while the receptionist and his friends stood afar and watched with surprise on their faces. That day, Mama Ikechukwu was sad. She overheard Ikechukwu, her son, that she moved heaven and earth for, to give him a comfortable life, call him a poor wretched maid. His maid. Tears streamed down her face in sadness. It finally dawned on her. Ikechukwu was ashamed of his dustbin mother. He was now rubbing shoulders with rich people, and he forgot that it was the dustbin that saved his life and gave him a bright future. Mama Ikechukwu left the office with sadness and tears streaming down her face. This type of betrayal was deeper, and it was more painful than any kind. Mama Ikechukwu roamed aimlessly around the streets, and something terrible happened that day. Overwhelmed with sadness, she walked into the busy road without looking out for oncoming vehicles. And suddenly, Mama Ikechukwu was knocked down by a car, and everything went blank. What happens now? Dear viewers, what is the fate of Oichi? Let's find out. The driver that mistakenly hit Mama Ikechukwu panicked and he rushed the poor woman to the hospital. There, the old woman was admitted into the emergency ward, and the driver was terrified that he had killed an old poor woman. But the doctor assured him that the woman was still alive. She suffered a major brain injury, but she would survive, and she has been suffering from malnutrition and stress for a long period of time. We are doing all we can to get her the best treatment, sir, the doctor said to the driver. Days later, Mama Ikechukwu regained consciousness, and she found herself in a hospital room. Everything was strange. How did she get here? What was going on? She thought to herself, as everything was blank. The doctor informed the driver that the old woman suffered from severe amnesia. She couldn't remember anything about her past life. She could not remember her name or where she was from. Doctor, what do we do now? Will she ever recover her memory? The driver asked with panic on his face. Well, it depends. Her memories may return, or they may never return. The driver was devastated. He felt responsible for what happened to the old woman. But the problem was that there was no way to reach her family. She wasn't holding any means of identification or even a cell phone to call her loved ones. With no other option, the driver took Mama Ikechukwu to his house to take care of her till her memories returns and she's able to go back to her family. The driver's name was Jeffrey. Jeffrey was not an ordinary driver. He was a CEO of a big tech company. That was how Mama Ikechukwu started living with Jeffrey, a total stranger that treated her like a mother more than Ikechukwu, her son. Mama Ikechukwu could not regain her memory, but she always felt like something was missing in her life. She felt this void that Jeffrey's love and care could not fill. But one thing was certain. Jeffrey took good care of her. He bought her expensive outfits and ordered all his domestic staff to treat her with utmost respect. She was pampered and nursed back to health. And Mama Ikechukwu, though she lost her memory, she still had a cheerful personality. She made Jeffrey's house lively and filled the role of a mother in Jeffrey's life. Every day, Mama Ikechukwu would cook lunch and take to Jeffrey's office, something Ikechukwu hated, but Jeffrey loved it, and every day he looked forward to eating Mama Ikechukwu's food. Jeffrey never had a mother while growing up, so he loved being around Mama Ikechukwu, and Mama Ikechukwu felt loved and taken care of. Back at Ikechukwu's house, weeks passed and he couldn't see his mother. He couldn't find her anywhere. At first, he thought she had gone back to the village, but her phone and her bag was still at his place. After he waited for more weeks, Ikechukwu became worried and he went to the village to look for his mother. But he was told she left the village months ago to visit him in the city. Ikechukwu was terrified that something might have happened to his mother. When he got to the city, he started looking for her everywhere, but it was too late. He regretted how he mistreated his poor mother. She had done everything to make sure he had the best, and he repaid her with wickedness. Ikechukwu regretted his life, but it was too late. His mother was gone, now enjoying her remaining life with Jeffrey, her new son, who knew her worth. Ikechukwu searched endlessly for his mother. He hired detectives to look for his mother, but they couldn't find anything. It was like the poor woman just disappeared from the face of the earth. One day, Ikechukwu went shopping for groceries at a supermarket, and as he was browsing through the aisles, checking out products, his eyes landed on his mother. Ikechukwu let out a shout and he rushed to hug her. But his mother only looked at him with surprise on her face. She couldn't recognize him because she had lost her memory. "Mama, it's me, Ikechukwu. I've been looking for you for months now," he said with excitement as he held the woman's hand gently. "Ikechukwu? From where?" Mama Ikechukwu asked. "Mama, it's me, your son, Ikechukwu. Your son." But the woman shook her head. "Sir, I don't know you. You are not my son," My son is at work and he would be back home soon, so I need to hurry back home to prepare his favorite food. Ikechukwu stared at his mother as tears streamed down his face. She was different. Something had definitely happened. She couldn't recognize him and it broke his heart. If only he had treated her well. Now she had forgotten all about him. And as Ikechukwu watched his mother leave, his heart was torn into pieces and he regretted his life. After 5 long years, Mama Ikechukwu regained her memory and she reconnected with her son Ikechukwu. Ikechukwu begged his mother for forgiveness. He had been miserable since she left. Things have been so bad for him. And Oichi forgave her son. Jeffrey and Ikechukwu built a house for her and they took care of her till her old age. Oichi was grateful for her 2 sons who loved and adored her. Hi lovelies, what do you think of this story? Do you think Mama Ikechukwu should have forgiven her son? Share your thoughts with me in the comment section below. The moral of this story is that we should take care of our aged parents while they are still alive. It is not when they are gone that we'll start crying and regretting and wishing a dino. Take care of your parents today. Have you called your mama today? If you haven't done so, please call them, reach out to them, and take care of them while they are still alive. If you are still watching this video up to this point, please give this video a thumbs up. Let me know where you are watching from in the comment section below. And until I bring another juicy and interesting story your way again, bye for now.